Hello everyone, this is Randy I back with another video. Today we're gonna talk about what makes a man successful. What is it that separates the successful man from perhaps the unsuccessful man or a man who has not yet attained success. That's going to be our video today. It's going to be a very interesting video. Please watch the whole video. You're going to learn a lot today. Okay, so there are 6 factors to success as a man. And it's important to realize that success is actually a composite. It's not one thing. It's a combination of many factors. And I've condensed it down to 6 very specific factors. Number 1 is health. Number 2 is women. And I will preface this by saying this conversation is going to be from the perspective of a heterosexual man, right? So that's the parameters around this video. Not to say there are not different types of relationships, but that's the parameters of this video. It's from the perspective of a heterosexual man. So women is number 2. 3 is relationships. So we're talking about family, friends, social relationships, what we'll call that relationships in general. Number 4 is resources, sometimes also known as wealth, but more generically, resources is how I'm going to define the 4th characteristic. Number 5 is status, right? Your status as a man relative to other people, men and women, in society, sometimes also known as power, but it's not just about power. It could be termed as influence, but I'm going to define this characteristic as, or identify it as being status. And then number 6, finally, freedom, right? And we're talking about not just physical freedom, but also mental freedom. So to repeat, we have health, women, relationships, resources, status, and number 6, freedom. So I'm going to go into all 6 of these characteristics. If you can maximize all 6, or if you hit, however you want to talk about this, if you hit all 6 characteristics in your life and at a high level, then you are a successful man. Okay, so before we go into these 6 characteristics, I just want to make a more general acknowledgement that there are 2 sort of big theories of success and big sort of definitions that I just want to address. Both of them are I believe, incomplete. So these are sort of the definitions that I want to challenge in my video today. But there's a predominant definition of success that's floating around in society today, that success is just wealth and social status, right? You see videos advertising all of this stuff that you're bombarded with, right? A successful man, what does he look like? He's on a yacht, maybe with a suit or something. He has money, he has status, and that is success, right? He has the admiration of other people, and he has big toys for big boys. Perhaps he's surrounded by women. That's this image of success, the rock star image, or the billionaire CEO image, right? We all are bombarded by these images. And guess what? That is an element of success. But at the same time, a lot of these people are very miserable. Some of these people kill themselves, right? Some of these rock stars and movie stars and people who seemingly have everything, they end up overdosing on drugs, they end up killing themselves, or they commit suicide. So is that success? Is dying at a young age success? I can't see that being very successful if you're dead at a young age. And if you're miserable, despite the fact that you have the big house and the yacht and the multiple cars and surrounded by beautiful women, is that success, right? Or is that just you being an imposter? So today in this video, I want to challenge that particular definition. I'm not saying it's not part of success, but I am saying it is actually just part of success. It's not the whole picture. Remember, as I said in the beginning, success is a composite of different factors. And the image that we are being bombarded with in popular culture and popular society of what success means as a man is, I think, too asymmetrical and too narrow. So I just want to address that in the beginning of the video, that the popular culture definition or image of success is narrow, and we need to challenge that and understand that success is more than just that. And then number two, there's another definition of success which is really interesting, but is also, I think, a little bit narrow, is the perspective of evolutionary psychology. Right, so if you ever take an evolutionary psychology class or a biology class in school, success in a way, from an evolutionary standpoint, is just defined as survival and reproduction. Right, if you survive and you get to reproduce a lot, then you're successful as man. So from this definition, you just need to have a lot of babies and survive and reproduce a lot, which explains to a large extent why we have sexual desires and lustful desires and why we're attracted to women. But again, it's too narrow, I believe, of a definition, right? So according to this definition, the most successful person in history will probably be someone like Genghis Khan, right? So you may or may not know this, but according to some scientists and geneticists, about 8 to 10% of the area that Genghis Khan used to occupy, so sort of the Mongolian Empire, 8 to 10% of the population of the current people in the world today living in that area are directly descendant from Genghis Khan. Approximately 16 million individuals, about 8%, 8 to 10% of the population of that area, of Central Asia, Mongolia, parts of China, the Caucasus, that area that used to be part of the Mongolian Empire. 8 to 10%, approximately 16 million people. So from that perspective, Genghis Khan, the Mongolian conqueror and warlord, is perhaps, from an evolutionary standpoint, the most successful human being in the history of human beings. Right? So from that perspective, now is he? Do you consider him the most successful? Maybe. But from an evolutionary biology standpoint, he is number one, right? He is the prize bull, if you will. I make that comment because in agriculture, some bulls, they're used to impregnate many cows, right? They're actually, through the process of artificial insemination, they're used to impregnate all the dairy cows. Right? So it's the same bull, and you can actually buy the. This is going to sound a little bit maybe nasty, but you can buy the the semen from these bulls. This is a perfectly common practice in agriculture to buy semen from particular prize bulls to impregnate artificially your dairy cows so they have the best children. So in the animal kingdom, certainly this idea of evolutionary success exists both, I guess, artificially in agriculture and naturally. Right, the animals that reproduce the most are in that sense the most successful if they find the most mates in the wild. But if you only go with this particular theory, you get very strange results. You have people, and there's documentaries and Netflix specials about people like this who through levels of manipulation and lying or through different seemingly unethical means impregnate hundreds, if not thousands, of women through sperm donation. Some of these women not knowing that they've been impregnated by these people, right? So there are people who go around the world impregnating women through sperm donations, and then there was even a doctor who used his own sperm for the purposes of impregnating women. So what's the drive behind that? Well, it's the evolutionary biology drive to an extent. So these people, from an evolutionary biology perspective, are very successful. They are probably the most successful in that they have the most number of children. Now, through a very bizarre and artificial means, but yes, they've accomplished the ability to now pop out, not them, but to produce as many babies as they can, and more babies than anybody else. But is that success, right? Going back to my central thesis here, is that success? Are these people who are impregnating thousands of women in the world through seemingly unethical means of sperm donation, are they the most successful men? Probably not, right? That's why success is a composite. Success is a composite, and I go back to the 6 factors that I want to talk about today. So this is a good segue to talk about these 6 factors that I identified at the beginning of today's video. Number 1, the most important, I think, is health. You can't have success without health. You just can't, right? And I mean physical health and mental health. You can have all the money in the world, all the power. If you can't get out of bed because you have a chronic health issue, is that success? You know, you hear stories of people who work all their lives and they accumulate all this money, and they finally manage to retire, and then they're too unhealthy to be able to fly and to travel to the places they want to go to. They're too unhealthy to do the things they've always wished they wanted to do. They're sick, right? So is that success? I mean, it's a rhetorical question. I probably would imagine you know the answer to that question. That's probably not the definition of success, not being able to enjoy your body. So health, I mean, in my personal life, I had a friend who, unfortunately, really sad. He passed away in his late 30s, but he was a highly successful man, right? A physician, just a kind, compassionate, a dear friend of mine, intelligent, financially successful, was running multiple businesses, had properties all over the world. He was just like the epitome of what like a young, or not young, but like a person in their 30s, what success meant for a person like that from the perspective of many different perspectives. He was just so highly successful, and a standout member of his community, just as overall great individual. But he passed away in his 30s due to cancer. Is that success? Right? When you don't have health, it's really sad. It's really sad when that happens. But is he more successful than someone who lives with mom and dad at 30, but is alive? Right? So it's an interesting question. It's a really interesting question. So in that perspective, look at these people. And not just physical health, but mental health, right? Look at these people who are, again, rock stars and musicians, and these people in the entertainment industry. I mentioned them because it's very prominent, right? They have everything. They have the wealth, the women, the power, the prestige, the popularity, but a lot of these people have very intense mental health issues. They end up doing drugs. They end up killing themselves. Very recently. So this video, just to timestamp it, is made in November 2024. So recently there was a popular, I forgot his name, but there's a popular musician, entertainer from the band One Direction, or former member of the band One Direction, who was obviously dealing with alcohol addiction issues and mental health issues. He jumped out of a balcony in Argentina from his hotel, and he's dead. Right, big news item in the entertainment industry. But you hear stories like this every year, multiple times a year, of suicides and drug addiction, overdoses, alcohol overuse, addictive tendencies. People who lack core mental health, even though they seemingly have all the superficial things, right? The external validation, but they die. So rock stars are an extreme example, but on an everyday level, I mean, as a lawyer, I talk to very successful clients, right? The average person I'm serving right now as a lawyer makes about $200,000 a year. They're an executive level person. A lot of these people, when you talk to them, they're not very happy. Right? They make a lot of money. They're very successful people, right? They're people with big houses, big boats, big cars, right? These are executives. Some of these people are pulling in $500,000 a year, $1 million a year, $1 million plus. These people on average have a net worth of at least $1 million plus, 2 million, 3 million. Some of these people, right? And some of my clients are even richer than that, right? They're like super high net worth individuals. We're talking just levels of wealth that is unimaginable to the average person. But one common theme is they're not necessarily that happy. They have anxiety, they have depression issues. They're just because they're successful in the sense that they have a lot of cash, they're occupying high positions in life, like CEOs and CFOs and director positions. They're certainly occupying very high positions in society. Now that, without a doubt, they're doing important things and important things that are recognized by their peers, but they're not very happy, right? So mental health is so key. You don't want to collect the toys and the wealth and be miserable, right? So if you're dealing with depression, anxiety, mental health issues, paranoia, enormous amounts of stress, childhood trauma, whatever it is, success is also being able to address all of these mental health issues over the course of your lifetime, right? Whether that's through therapy or meditation or introspection, hallucinogenics, whatever you want. There's a survey, not a survey, but sort of a randomized control trial. Could I even call it that? Sure. We're just going to call it, maybe this is not the right term for it, but there was like a randomized control trial where they had this groups of people who were depressed, and the scientists introduced different types of interventions, right? Pharmaceutical interventions, right? Antidepressive medication, exercise was one of the interventions, and to different people, right? So they suppose you had 10 people, one person got exercise, one person got pharmaceutical intervention like serotonin drugs or whatever. One person got cognitive behavioral therapy, another person got yoga and mindfulness. One person, really interesting, got another person. So the intervention was, you're depressed, you had to hang out with someone even more depressed than you. That was one of the interventions in this experiment. It's brilliant. At the end of the day, all the interventions showed some level of effect, right? Exercise, pharmaceutical interventions, hanging out with someone more depressed than you actually was as equally effective as cognitive behavioral therapy, apparently. So if you think you're not successful, just hang out with someone less successful than you. That's the key. That's what I've learned. I'm partially joking, partially. So going back to my main point, I digress. The main point is mental health is important. Do whatever you can in your life, right? There was 10 different interventions in this experiment. All of them work to an extent, whether it's journaling, meditation, talking to friends, hanging out with less successful people, taking drugs. But make a genuine effort to address your mental health, because it's really important. I mean, everybody knows about physical health, right? Going to the gym, eating healthy, that's promoted quite predominantly in society. But mental health there's still some stigma around it. So I strongly recommend that over the course of your life, you make strong strides towards mental health success, because it's actually part of success, and it's one of the key pieces of success. Without good physical health and mental health, everything else I'm going to talk about, all the other 5 factors that I'm going to talk about, evaporate, are in a sense irrelevant if you're miserable or if you're dead, right? Think about it logically, right? Your body is the vessel by which all of this happens. Your mind is the direction and the sensory organ through which all of this is perceived. If you don't have your mind and if you don't have your body, then everything else is is insignificant and not relevant. So that's number one, health, right? Mental health, physical health. It's a key part of success. Please don't forget that. It's a key part of success. Number two, women. And again, I'm talking from the perspective of the heterosexual man, right? I acknowledge there are different types of relationships and different sexual orientations. That could be for a different video. I'm just narrowing the topic today to the heterosexual man and from the perspective of heterosexual men. Women is huge, right? They like Warren Buffett and many other very famous, successful people said, and Seymour Schulich, who's a Canadian billionaire, he says this too. The person you marry is so important, so important. Like your spouse, right? The person you spend your life with, your female partner, is just of monumental importance, because you spend all of your time with this person, right? Every day. You have children with this person, presumably, right? You choose a bad partner, you're marching into the office of a divorce lawyer, eventually, right? You're fighting about property. I've been to family court, right? Not as a participant, as a lawyer. It's nasty. Family court is nasty. It's probably the ugliest, nastiest place I've ever seen. I mean, I'd really rather be in a war zone than family court, to see people who used to be in love rip each other apart limb by limb, fighting over minutia, fighting over property and wealth, fighting over their children and tearing their children apart. It's just nasty. It's the most grotesque thing, honestly. If you want to see the darkest side of humanity, you go to family court. You see the darkest side, the worst instincts of humanity is found in family court when you have ex couples fighting. It's terrible. So make your decisions wisely, right? Choose your partners wisely, your relationships with women wisely. Marry the right person. Don't just randomly get into a relationship and have a one-night stand turn into just something it shouldn't. If you need to experiment, just experiment, right? That's success too. If I make no judgment. I make no judgment. If you date one person and you marry that person, that's success. Absolutely, that is success. And all the power to you. If you can commit to one person all your life, and that's your one of your first girlfriends, or that is your first girlfriend, that is absolutely admirable and success. Conversely, if you want to sleep with 100 people, or 500 people, or manage to sleep with 1,000 people, that too is success. It's a different type of success. But I make no judgment. That too is a form of success, because not everybody can accomplish that. So if you have the attraction and the ability and the intelligence to do that, by all means, have fun and do that. That is a form of success as well. But remember, importantly, if you settle down, make sure you choose the right person to settle down with. I've seen too many of my friends be miserable with the people they've settled down with. It's just not worth it, right? Choose once you're ready. Choose the right person, the right woman, right? And if you're not ready, then it's okay. Then don't be ready. I make no judgment, right? If you want to keep going, and you want to be single forever, that's also a form of success, right? I'm not saying success is necessarily finding a long-term relationship, right? If you want to do short-term relationships or multiple short-term relationships, that is also a form of success. I'm just saying, if you are ready to settle down, and when you are, please ensure, for your sake, that I don't see your face in family court. Please choose the right person, and please think about it carefully, and make a conscious effort to be the best version of yourself and to bring out the best version of her, because I encourage successful marriages, right, and successful unions of people, especially if you're going to have children, because it's not fair for the kids if mom and dad are going to fight or they're going to divorce. So if you make that decision to have children, in my opinion, you should stick with that partner. I don't necessarily agree with you having children with multiple people, with multiple women all over the world or in the same city or whatever, and just leaving a trail of broken families. Like I think that's pretty irresponsible. If you're going to have children with a person you're going to settle down with, right? And choose that person really, really carefully, and do what you can, because that's so important. Otherwise, again, you're going to be miserable, right? Divorces are terrible, terrible, terrible procedures. The property loss that you will experience as well, the loss in assets. Look at someone like Jeff Bezos. He lost about $40 billion after his divorce with Mackenzie Bezos, right? $40 billion. She suddenly became one of the richest people in the world. That's a different story. I'm a little bit unhappy with how that divorce turned out from the perspective of family law, that how can someone receive $40 billion? It doesn't make sense, right? There should be some kind of cap on it. It just, that itself, different issue, but I can't see how that makes any sense, that someone can receive $40 billion in a divorce settlement. But that's for a different video. But Jeff lost $40 billion in a combination of cash and Amazon stock. He made it all back, but that's a $40 billion divorce. That's a lot of money, right? So, and for the average person, that could be your house, right? That could be the majority of your assets, or at least half the assets that you've obtained, plus a nasty divorce, plus the fight, the emotional draining fight. Don't do that, right? If you're going to settle down with the right person. Be responsible with your family life. Don't leave your children with a broken family. And if you're not ready, then just have fun. That's also a form of success. I have no judgment if you want to have multiple women, and you want to have different women every night. That is a form of success as well. Because it's hard to do that, right? Not everybody can do that. You ask the average man, can you have multiple women per night or different women every night? Most men can't pull that off. So if you're able to pull that off, and if you're striving for that in life right now, all the power to you. That is also a form of success. So there's sort of two pieces to this pie. But whatever you do, be responsible. And as they say in the UFC, protect yourself at all times. Okay, so that's women. Women deserve their own special category because there's a dichotomy, right? There's women and men. There's always this dichotomy. We are, as heterosexual men, always attracted to women, right? It's a very strong natural urge. So that's why I want to put them in a separate category for my conversation about success. But thirdly, the third category is just relationships, right? Relationships in general. We're talking about family relationships, friendships, business relationships, acquaintances, just having really strong relationships. I've been very lucky in my life that I've have friends from all walks of life, from different segments and times in my life. I have friends from elementary school, high school, university, law school, from my work life. I've been very lucky in that a lot of these people still want to hang out with me, right? I guess I'm a decent person. And I've made an effort to keep in touch with people as well, all over the world. I have friends in Australia, I have friends in the US, I have friends in Europe, I have friends in Asia. I have friends all over the world, and I have a really good friend who moved to Thailand. I have a friend right now who was formerly in Ukraine. He's in Romania now. He's somewhere else. But I like to keep in touch with my friends. You actually can see some of them in my YouTube videos and some of my previous videos. I like to interview them. Friends are amazing, and they help you with your journey of life, right? Friends and family as well. Good family members and friends. It's important because life is hard, right? The journey of life is difficult. To do it on your own is even more difficult. You want to do this journey to some extent together with others. I'll give you a little story from my life. I was once in this city close to Toronto called Hamilton. It's about an hour away. I went to school there to a place called McMaster, and I was just there randomly one day, and I saw this marathon that was happening, and it was a community marathon, and I waited at the end of the marathon just to see who would cross the finish line. So the first group of people to cross the finish line, they looked very serious, right? These were people who were, professional or semi-professional athletes. They just wanted to win, right? They were the first. They had the gear. They had that look of intent on their face. They were the first to cross the finish line, and they had a very clear vision of what they wanted. And then there's a group of other people that crossed. And because this was a community marathon, there were a lot of people who were just running with their friends or their family members, right? They weren't there to win. They weren't there to cross the finish line first, but they were just there enjoying the journey. You had groups of people who were talking. They were just running slowly. Didn't matter to them. So life's a little bit like that. It's a journey. It's temporal because life is temporal, right? It's based on time. You can't go back. You can only go forward. So as opposed to being spatial, time only goes forward. At least as we know, it only goes forward. Maybe there are dimensions where it goes in different directions. But as we know right now, in our current understanding of reality, time only goes in one direction, and it's forward. So life, in that sense, it's temporal. It's closer to music than say a piece of art. Art is spatial. You can jump around with your eye to different pieces or visually to different segments of a painting on the wall. But music is temporal, right? It only goes in one direction. I'm not talking about necessarily pausing a piece of music. I'm talking about like if you listen to a live band, the music starts and then it stops, and you can't stop it in the middle. It goes in one direction. Life is a bit like that. Life is more like music than like visual art, in that it's temporal, right? And it's temporal in one direction. So as you're flowing in one direction, use the music analogy. You want to use the marathon analogy. It's great to have some people, be part of this race with you. And it's not really a race at all, but it's just great to have companions as you move in one direction in time. You can do it by yourself. You can try to win, but I think the people who enjoyed themselves the most that day at the marathon were people who were really just there with their friends, and they were just enjoying the process. So I encourage that for you to enjoy the process of life with the people around you who you connect with the most. But it takes effort, right? Maintaining friendships and maintaining friendships with friends and with family members, it doesn't come for free. You have to make an effort to try to maintain and celebrate those relationships. And if you don't, like all things, like a flower or a tree or a plant that you don't water, it withers, right? People grow apart. Anything that you don't maintain dies. Withers at first and then eventually dies. Anything in life, your body, your finances, like anything. If you don't maintain it and if you don't water it, it will eventually wither and it will eventually die. And watering it in a way is free, right? So friendships don't necessarily cost you that much. It's just your time and energy and your willingness to maintain good relationships with people. That's really important. I see that's again a very important part of success. A lot of people don't recognize, right? Would you rather be a man who does not have a lot of wealth or power, but is surrounded by amazing family and friends and has laughs and celebrates every night, and you see people like that in certain countries, like Latin American countries or certain Mediterranean European countries, like people go out at night and they're surrounded by family and friends, and they're just happy. They don't have a lot of money, but they're happy. Would you be that, or would you want to be isolated in a Beverly Hills mansion somewhere with just a small group of people who are trying to exploit you, and you have your big mansion, you have all this stuff, but you don't have any true friends? Like, what is more successful to you, right? If you think about it, what is which one is more successful? Rhetorical question. So now on that note, number 4, resources. We cannot deny that wealth and resources, right? So resources is a more generic term, because wealth is more related to money, and money is sort of a man-made concept. But you cannot deny that resources and wealth is absolutely important and is a cornerstone of success. This is not a video about you becoming a monk. I'm not saying like, hey, you should get rid of your worldly possessions. Quite the opposite. Of the 6 factors, wealth and resources, having real estate, having investments, having hard cash, having crypto, having cars, having things, is absolutely a key to your success. Being rich is being successful, right? It's not the only component, as I've described today, of success, but it's absolutely an important part of success. We should all strive to be rich. Every one of us. We should all strive to have great relationships, to be with friends, and to have healthy bodies. But we should also, I want to be very clear, also strive to be very, very rich. That I think is an important aspect of being successful, especially as a man, is wealth. And we should strive for it. I don't need to add a lot more on this topic. You're bombarded already with advertising and popular cultural pressure and probably parental pressure or societal pressure to be rich, right? Everybody is encouraging everybody else to be rich. You don't need me to encourage you to be rich. It's already out there in the popular culture. It's actually probably one of the most popular ideas that's being promoted, is that make money. But there is some truth to it. I'm not here to, again, tell you to live in a monastery. Wealth is really important. Wealth helps you afford a lot of the things that you want, the lifestyle that you want. I've been very lucky in my life that I've achieved a certain level of financial freedom, where for the last 10 years I haven't really needed to worry about money that much. And I've been very fortunate. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling not to have to worry about money. So I encourage all of you to strive for that, to be in a place where you don't have to worry about money, because worrying about money sucks, right? And wealth means different things. And being rich means different things to different people. Like, whether that's being able to afford 3 vacations per year and buying a fancy car, or maybe that means buying a big house, or being able to afford certain things. It means different things to different people. Whatever it means for you, go for it, right? Be motivated, go for it, strive for it, work hard, work smart, do things, again, be ethical, be responsible, but go for it. That's absolutely a key part of success. As well, number 5, this is the 5th characteristic of success, status. Status is also very important, right? I'm not here to tell you, again, to isolate yourself and to remove yourself from the world. Status, where you are relative to other human beings, to other men, and to some extent other women, is really important, right? The status anxiety is real. There's actually a book, I think, called Status Anxiety, which is you are more likely to be anxious that you're performing not as well relative to your peers than relative to people who you don't compare yourself to, right? So suppose you play basketball, and one of the best basketball players of our generation is, say, someone like LeBron James, right? Do you compare yourself to LeBron James? Like, does he make you jealous or envious? Nah, he's LeBron James, right? Like, you don't compare yourself to LeBron James. But if you're playing basketball with someone in your neighborhood who's sort of at your level and he's kicking your ass, then that may give you a little bit of anxiety that you're not as good. So by way of inference, if you have a house on the street and someone else has a house but has 2 cars and making more money, or your coworker is making more money than you, or is doing more or has more status, that gives you some anxiety. And it should. It actually should. Status anxiety is a good thing because it drives us to want to be of higher status. And I see no issues in that. I think we should all strive to be of high status, right? It's not the only thing you should strive for, because we've talked about the other factors, but you should. actually want to be powerful, want to have status, want to have influence. Right? The greatest people in the world, whether they're artists, politicians, business people, military people, scientists, writers, philosophers, healthcare workers, the most prominent humans in the world have status. They all have status. They have influence. They have power, indirectly or directly, over other people. Some of it may be based on control, like someone like Kim Jong-un or some dictator may be expressing that status through control. Some may be expressing it through merit, right? Someone like the late Stephen Hawking certainly has status, right? His scientific thoughts elevate him to a high level of status, but because his thoughts have merit, and he's respected, and people want to hear what he has to say and what he has to contribute. That's a form of status. I'm not saying status is necessarily control, in sort of like a militaristic way, or where you're trying to oppress other people. But status comes in different forms, right? Artists who influence others with their music, right? Taylor Swift has status, right? She has a lot of wealth, she has a lot of power, she has a lot of influence, and she has status. She's not a bad person, all right? But that's a form of status, a form of power. And in the same way that historically, people like Napoleon, right, had status. They were political giants of their age, and also military geniuses who, through conquest, controlled other people. So again, status and influence can exist differently. So it's not necessarily a negative thing to have status. Merit can elevate your status, right? Contributions can elevate your status, and also good old military control or political control over others. People like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, very controversial figures, right? These are, not everybody agrees with what they're trying to do, but they're very rich and they have a lot of status. Right? So you have to be your own version of Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in whatever field you want to excel in, whether you're a musician, a business person, a yoga instructor, a writer, an entrepreneur, a teacher, a lawyer, whatever it is that you want to do, a martial arts expert, an athlete, an outdoors person, a used car enthusiast, if you're fixing used cars and repairing them. It doesn't matter. I'm just making up examples. Whatever you do the best. Do the best and be the best among the people that do what you do. You should strive for that. You should truly strive. And that's an element of success. Be humble, but don't be humble to the extent that you're not expressing your genius and your talent, right? You want to be humble in terms of your courtesy and how you behave with other people. I believe in that. Being humble to an extent is a good characteristic. You don't want to be showing off, unless you enjoy showing off. But don't be humble in the sense that you're cheating yourself of your genius and your contributions to the world, of who you are. Don't be humbled in that extent, in that you're shortchanging yourself. There is no place in the world for mediocrity. Remember that. There is no place in the world for mediocrity. Mediocrity is terrible. Do not join the cult of mediocrity. Jordan Peterson said, and I quote, "It is your moral obligation to do remarkable things." It is your moral obligation to do remarkable things. You are morally obligated to do in your lifetime remarkable things, to use your talents and your mind and your work and your discipline to do remarkable things. You are morally obligated. Do not hide. Do not give up. Status, control, power are things that you should strive for. To be elevated, to be better than other people in what you do. And I don't mean this in a negative way or in an oppressive way, but to elevate yourself. To rise above the herd, if I were to use a phrase from one of my favorite philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche. To rise above the herd, to And not everybody can do that. And that's why it's an element of success. Because if you can't do it, then in a way you're not successful, right? I'm sorry. If nobody knows who you are and you haven't contributed to the world, you're just not very successful in this element, in this category that I'm talking about, right? If you just have failed, like the local homeless person who's just on drugs, like are they contributing? I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't feel empathy for them if you do, but are they contributing, right? Are they contributing to society? Are they making your life better? Are they making the country better? Are they making the world better? I think the most logical answer is no, right? And that's an extreme example. But a lot of people are not contributing. So you need to contribute. And that's a very key element of success. All right? Please remember that. Okay. Finally, freedom. Freedom is the sixth category of success. And what I mean by freedom is both physical freedom and mental freedom. In terms of physical freedom, I guess the best example is jail, right? Prison. When you're not able to move around physically, or if you live in an oppressive country where you can't leave, right? There are certain countries in the world where you can't leave. During the pandemic, we experienced oppressive lockdowns where we couldn't leave our homes for different reasons. Very controversial. I'm still not very happy with the lockdowns, but that's for a different video. I have a video about the pandemic where I give you my thoughts on that. That's on my channel if you want to watch my thoughts about the pandemic. But lockdown, we all experienced that. 2020, 2021, right? So physical freedom is so important. Being able to physically go to places, right? Travel is one of my big hobbies. So I encourage you to travel the world or to travel to as many places as you see fit. Seeing different places and meeting different people is so key and so enriching. And that's a huge part of success. It's physical freedom to be able to move to different places of your choosing. And this, of course, as you know, is related to wealth and status, because like if you don't have resources and you can't move to different places, right? You can't afford it. So physical freedom, right? That's an element of success. And it relates to the body as well, health, the first category I talked about. If you're in a wheelchair or you're disabled, you can't move. I mean that's lacking in, you would be lacking in physical freedom. So physical freedom in the real world, in this world of base reality, right? The real world. I use these terms because I have a whole set of videos on different layers of reality, but sort of what I call primary reality. This is the base layer of the physical world is important. But just as important, because everybody sort of understands physical freedom, right? Travel, not being locked down, but just as important, another element of success that is freedom, that I put into this category of freedom, is mental freedom. Freedom from being constrained mentally, right? And this is partially in line with my comments about mental health, but also being able to think independently, to be free of the mind. I'm going to mention Stephen Hawking again, and he said something really important. He said, my body is sort of locked in this way, right? He had this disease that made it very difficult, if not impossible, for him to move most parts of his body. So his body was locked. But in one of his documentaries, he said, but in my mind, I am free, right? I think independently, with freedom, with just, I think whatever I want to think, with absolute abandon. Like I'm able to be free in my mind. And most people, in fact, are not free in their minds, right? We have too much social conditioning happening, bad parenting, social messages, maybe criticism from our high school teachers, whatever, bad relationships. We carry bad messaging, oppressive messaging from society, from our parents, from our teachers, from our coworkers, from our bosses, oppressive, abusive workplace supervisors, from toxic relationships, and we carry these messages with us. So we're not truly free, right? So we're not free in the mind, or we're oppressed by by societal constraints in our mind, that we accept things as they are rather than see things as they could be. I think I'm quoting Thanos there from Avengers, perhaps. Did I just quote Thanos? Maybe I just paraphrased Thanos. Maybe I did. Okay, so be free in the mind. Like, remove yourself from these social chains, right? Don't listen to the bullshit out there. It's hard. Like, this takes a lifetime. This is not easy. It's not easy. This is probably the hardest thing you can do, actually, is to free your mind. But there's a lot of guidance to this, right? If you look at the movie The Matrix, right, the red pill or the blue pill, there's the truth, and there's the freedom of the mind, and then there's metaphorically the oppressive society that we live in. And society can be very, very oppressive. The ideas that we perpetuate in society don't generally favor you, the individual. Right? They favor institutions. They favor those in power. They favor things beyond your control. They don't favor you. Nobody asks for your consent. Nobody asks actively for your consent. The things just happen to you, right? The governments just change their regulations whenever they want. They don't really ask for your consent. The world moves in a way that doesn't ask for your consent or your approval. The people around you don't necessarily consult you. You just exist, right? And things just move in ways that seem so. I'm just going to use the word oppressive at times. It's an oppressive world, and one of the big antidotes to the oppressive world that we live in, because it's oppressive in that it creates these mental chains in your mind. Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, man was born free, but everywhere he is surrounded by chains, right? And these chains are social chains that he talks about, right? He talks about the social chains that we then absorb as being mental limitations. We absorb the social messaging around us. Be very aware of that. Free your mind, right? Not here to sound like Morpheus from The Matrix, but free your mind. That is actually an element of success, one of the key elements. So, let us summarize. 6 key elements of success for a man. Health, that means physical and mental health. Women, right? Having really good relationships, responsible, good relationships with women. Choose your partner wisely. Don't end up in divorce court. You would regret it. Divorce court is terrible. Just don't do it. Please don't. Always sign a prenup as well. Prenups are really important. Number 3, relationships, friends, family, coworkers, having strong relationships. Make sure that you run the marathon of life with people who care about you and whom you enjoy, right? That it makes it a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable to do it that way. Wealth, number 4, be rich. Strive to be rich. Strive to accumulate resources. It's absolutely important for you to strive to be wealthy. Wealth is important. Don't let other people tell you that somehow wealth is not important. Wealth is important. Do what you can to get as much of it as you can in a responsible and ethical way. Number 5, power and status. Strive to be the best version of yourself. And inevitably that means having more status than other people. That's the net result of you being better. I believe in meritocracy, right? So you having more merit means that other people will respect you more, will gravitate towards you more. You will be the largest celestial body in the solar system. And by virtue of gravity, others will gravitate towards you by way of your merit and how outstanding you can be. You need to strive for that. There is no place for mediocrity in the world. Absolutely no place for you to be humble in that way. If you have talents, you must express your talents. You have the moral obligation to do remarkable things. And number 6, free your mind. The last form of success. Free your body, free your mind from oppression, from the chains that tie us down by the oppressive chains of societal messaging that's polluted our minds. Free yourself from that. If you can capture correctly these 6 points and then act on them, you will be, I assure you, a successful man. I wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you for watching this video. Do not forget to like and subscribe. I wish you success in all 6 categories. Be successful, go out there, take over the world. That's your duty. Okay, have a good day. Talk to you soon.